And then your mom will pin it to the fridge and say, "Good job, baby, you made a dubstep."
You're listening to the Human Music Podcast. Woo!
I think a big thing that helped me, and it was such a tiny part of the Leveling Weekly download, but the idea of hierarchies. I feel like once you just tell people to think in terms of hierarchies, it all clicks and it all makes sense. And if you take, like, for example, when it comes to mixing, he talks about a leveling hierarchy and you order things based on importance. So if we extend that to, say, arrangement, it stands to reason that some sections are going to have certain characteristics that other sections aren't going to have. Maybe that characteristic is cool. Not all of your sections, you can't just have cool, right? Like, one thing I learned, I feel from metal especially, when you look at like every single band in the genre almost, they play breakdowns and they're just like open string rhythmic chugs, and it's so simple. And why is it such a staple of the genre, and why does everybody do it, and why is it so appealing? And I've really come to learn, it's like a long time ago I found out it's not so much about how cool the riff is on its own. It matters when that riff comes in the song. And so I think what I see in a lot of people anyway is part of what you said, where they have like the same kick or whatever throughout. Usually they keep these like integral parts so static, and they don't like build it up properly and make like just that realization of like some sections are not going to be as cool, so I can build up to something cool, or some sections aren't going to be as dense or as lush or whatever. Just keeping that in mind, I've found has been really useful. And you can apply it on the macro too. Like if you got an 8-bar drum beat, make a snare hierarchy, make a kick hierarchy. If you got 10 kicks, make 2 of them or 3 of them hit harder in that 8-bar phrase. Give them another layer. Maybe add like a ding on a snare here or there, some sort of texture on top. And now 1 out of every 4, 1 out of every 2 snares is the dominant snare in that hierarchy. And goes to another point that Dylan said too, where he's like, if everything's loud, nothing's loud. And it's the differences in loudness that make the loud stuff seem loud. It's the same thing too. If like everything is reverbed as hell, if everything has a lot of one certain effect, then you don't get a grasp of to what extent that effect is really being used, versus if you're varying it up between elements or totally excluding it on some elements. Like that contrast is really the main point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
Amen. Contrast, man. For
real. You led perfectly into what I was planning on expanding on that. Like contrast is everything. Everyone, like I've probably had like 10 different students be like, oh, the bass sound that you used here is so wide. Like, how do you make sounds feel so wide? Dog, it's because that wide sound came directly next to a perfectly mono sound. And I thought about that shit when I was resampling all these sounds. Like half this resample, I was like, okay, for the first 10 minutes, I'm going to like make all the widest shit possible. And then for the next one, I'm just going to use one voice on everything and just make it super powerful and narrow. And then when you're chopping your bits next to each other, think about how they can align next to ones that are mono and then go into the wide ones. Cause then it's like, you just get that sense of depth like so well. Another reason in your build-up rack, you like start to make things narrower and narrower and narrower, and then the drop hits is like expansive, and you're like, holy shit, that felt like a big change. It only happens because of contrast. We all have the same amount of space to work with. I can't make something wider than you can. The difference is that we're conscious of how we present that to make it seem wider, right? Mm-hmm. Same thing with like the sense of space in your mix. Like if you want something to sound 3D, you don't just have one thing that sounds 3D. Like you have a quiet, like atmospheric element in the background that gives you that, oh, okay, so all of these big, loud bass noises in the front with no reverb feel closer when you have something in the background that is obviously far away. Mm-hmm. If you just have all of the big, loud bass noises in the front with no reverb, then it just feels like you're staring at a 2D piece of paper, and it's like you have no concept for why these things are big and huge. But then, like, if you like have something far in the background behind it, you're like, oh wait, there's a big space here. Then you're like, oh fuck that! Like now I understand the difference in the depth.
Yes. I just got a mental image when you said you're looking at the song on a 2D piece of paper. It was like, and then your mom will pin it to the fridge and say, good job, baby, you made a dubstep. It's going right here. I'm putting a gold star on it. Good job.
And then you leave and your dad's like, honey, we need to talk.
I think our kid has depth perception issues.
I think our kid is suffering from shitty mix syndrome. Have you guys seen that one meme where it's like the guy and the girl are texting and they're on the bed and the guy's like, I wrote you a song, baby, and he's like, the snare's trash and like you got way too much in the 1K and.
Do you have a low pass filter on the whole mix? You know what? Just send me the session file.
Yeah. Hilarious. Hilarious.
Yeah, I've definitely reposted that one since I saw it, bro. So good.
Love it.
Human Music Podcast. I like it.